All right, thank you very much. So I'll just start with Rotimi. Why is clean energy necessary at all? Why is it necessary at all? Why should we be concerned?
So I think the government has done the marketing of why it's important for me, so I don't have to say too much. About a month ago, most of you are paying 185 naira per liter for fuel, and just multiply that by 2.7, or almost 3 times, that's what you are paying today. Now, you could use other forms of energy to replace that, but the cheapest one that can replace it is solar specifically. And not just solar, the fact that it can be used anywhere at any particular time. So that's why you should care. If you didn't care before about your pockets or the environment, you should care today. And it's also in the global context of what's going on. I know most Nigerians don't really, if you talk about the environment, it's like, well, just solve my financial issue before we start discussing the environment. But whether you like it or not, Lagos in particular is a coastal city. And as sea level rise increases globally, this city potentially might not be around in 50 years. So we should care about solving a local issue that has global implications. Or let me put it the other way around, a global issue that has local implications. So that's what I'll start with.
Yeah, thank you, Rotimi. It's interesting that Africa has contributed the least to all that's happening in the environment, and yet will be the continent that is most impacted. So if clean energy before to you did not make sense, if sustainability did not make sense, I think you should be thinking very much about it. Mr. Mojola, how can, based on what Rotimi said, so how can education and awareness campaigns be used to, like how can we reach out to the average person on the street to explain to him what all of this is about?
So I think that there are already a lot of, this panel is a very good start in terms of awareness. And I would also say the average Nigerian is probably more aware about energy, how to use it, about, would I also say, before you say clean energy, also the dirty energy. Because every Nigerian was probably born to the sound of generators. So on this side of town, I would say there's probably a natural awareness due to, the nature of, unfortunately, what we have currently. Now, the conscious awareness is stuff like what we're doing now. There's also the necessity to educate ourselves. Apart from the environment, also because of our pockets. And the only sources of energy which would be free generally tend to fall under the renewable basket, whether it's wind, whether it's solar and all, what have you. So there's a lot of programs. I think we're doing decently okay when it comes to awareness. But maybe at the individual level, there's also a need to educate, because I think some of the things we see when we're trying to sell some of these solutions to people is people focus only on cost. So I think there's a lot of information out there, but there needs to be that intentional awareness to probably know more about it, because it's ultimately to every individual's benefit to do so.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I personally am looking forward to when we have TikToks, Reels talking about clean energy, because I think a huge population in Nigeria is young, under 35, so there has to be a way to make that messaging resonate with them. So I'm looking forward to people coming on threads to talk about why clean energy matters in Nigeria. So Rotimi, I'm going to ask you now, this is Lagos Startup Week anyway, what are the biggest challenges facing startups in Nigeria when it comes to accessing clean and affordable energy, right? I'm sure that startups who are very early stage are probably struggling with how to figure out power and all of that. So what are some of those challenges and how can we solve them?
Yeah, so I think most of the people in this room are entrepreneurs, startups, small businesses, and all of you are residents, right? You live somewhere, you work from home, so on and so forth. I think the thing that concerns most of us is the cost of energy. I mean, if you read the SMEDAN reports, so the Small Medium Enterprise Association's reports, you see that power always registers as something like 40, 50 or so percent, if not more, of the cost of doing business for these enterprises. So I am way more disadvantaged than the guy out there in Silicon Valley. I think Shea just said that. Yeah. Building the same thing because power is so expensive, and that features in the cost of what I'm doing. Now, just let me bring it down to, a very relatable level. If you run a 1 kVA generator today, and a lot of small businesses do that, or remote workers, you're spending something like 0.5 or 0.5 liters per hour to run that generator. If you do that over the course of 5 days, 4 weeks in a month, you're spending at least 30 or so thousand naira at the current prices. A similar system, that's a solar system, can be accessed on a subscription for 15,000 naira a month. That's a 50% saving. So why wouldn't you take that kind of opportunity? But it is how to pay for that system that the problem really is for a lot of guys. There's a lot of people that can do installations and so on and so forth. But how do I access the solution now, fast, and in a trusted manner? Because people have had bad experiences with going solar and so on and so forth in the past. But the technology here today is a lot more advanced and it's a lot better. But you need a trust pilot that you can trust to say, hey, don't go for this one, no, don't go for this one. You enter one chance. So what do we say in Nigeria? Go for this one. It's trusted, it's got a great warranty, and you can pay for it over time. That's the missing link between all the renewable energy solutions we see in the market and the customers waiting for it, but there's a trust gap that we see that exists between them, and there's also a financial gap. So I think that's part of the work that we're doing to address that.
Thank you. So there's a trust gap and there's also a financing gap. I agree, because if anyone is using solar in Nigeria, automatically you assume that that person is a big boy or a big girl. So of course there's that financing issue. So Mr. Mojola, what innovative financing mechanisms can businesses, startups, individuals, and residences employ to transition to clean energy?
So I think I would continue from where Rotimi stopped. Before you talk about the innovative options that exist, I think there are a lot of them, actually, or there are quite a few of them. Us, Gridcrux, SunFi, quite a few people. But I think there is, coming back to the awareness talk, a lot of people don't really understand the true cost of their power. So what we discover when we're trying to finance some of these solutions, you say to someone, for instance, we're going to sell it to you at, let's say, 120 naira per kilowatt hour. And then the guy is arguing with you saying, but I'm paying 69 naira to the grid. And then you have to break it down and start saying, you have grid for 8 hours. You have a diesel generator that's probably running for 12 hours. The real cost for that diesel generator at a tariff point maybe is anywhere from 220, 240, 250, depending on the size. You have depreciation on those assets. There's also the risk when it comes to your fuel cost that can forever keep going on that steep curve. So before you consider the financing options, because sometimes you discover that even when you present those financing options and you probably say pay XYZ tariff per kilowatt hour or pay X naira per month, because there's a lack of understanding of how much exactly is being spent on power, a lot of people are under the, impression or mirage that, to adopt renewable solutions or clean energy solutions are more expensive. And data actually shows in a lot of areas that it's cheaper. So I think my answer to that is, before you decide, break down your expenditure to the total naira per month, whether it's your maintenance, whether it's replacement of spare parts, whether it's the staff that you hire to do all of that stuff, or break it down into a per kilowatt hour if you can, or if you can't, reach out to people that can do that. Then compare it vis-a-vis to some of the financing options that you have, because I think those options are actually available. The question is it getting the adoption that it should? And the understanding of the energy cost is one of the fundamental issues that I think customers or we generally as Nigerians need to address.
Thank you very much. I agree that the average person doesn't know how much their power costs, that you are paying for generator, you are paying NEPA bills. And I want to say that in addition to the cost from your pockets, also the cost on your mind, because people are coming to cut your NEPA line, your guy that is fixing your generator is giving you one story. Things are always happening, right? So it's easy, to solve the problem from your pocket and from the mind as well. Also, but when we look at Nigeria, a lot of people, data says a lot of people in survival market, there are a lot of people in marginalized communities. So talking about clean energy when they've not eaten, it's not going to relate, right? So how can we ensure, to you, Rotimi, like how can we make that clean energy access equitable and to reach out to those in marginalized communities who make up a large percentage of Nigerians?
Well, how are you defining marginalized? Because the reason I ask is you go into a lot of rooms around the world and you hear people in different parts of the world discussing your problem in your country that you know best, right? And they say, no, that's not marginalized. You have to go all the way to the rural areas to go and be helping someone that has mosquitoes, they're not able to see at night and so on and so forth. How do you know that the guy in the urban area that is running his micro enterprise, that's struggling to turn on the lights, is also not marginalized?
To me, are you saying we are all marginalized?
Hey, look, in the global context of things, I'm pretty confident.
Can we quote you on that?
No, okay, what I'm going to say is this, right? Solar is an asset, is a capex-intensive energy source, right? It's not operating cost-intensive. Once you have it, the sun is free unless someone is charging for God's sun. I don't know, right? So the problem is always about how do I pay that initial upfront cost? And that's where a lot of people are disenfranchised in Nigeria. Now, the opportunity that we saw at SunFi is that, look, there's lots of localized electricians, solar companies, and providers. These are people you know by their first name. They're the guys that come around and fix your electronics. But the problem he has is every time caller says, hey, I want to buy this thing from you, but oh boy, I can't pay for this thing now. Do you have a payment plan? The guy says, look, I can't do business with you. And that was the opportunity we saw to say that, look, the banks want to also help, but they're also worried about the default rates in this space. One thing we discovered is that people only stop paying for energy access, whether it's through Gridcrux or whoever the case may be, when they are unhappy about the quality of the energy access they are having. And that's a very important thing. In fact, a default rate is a communication of how displeased I am with your energy service. Other people can pay, and that's about you giving the wrong solution to the right customer. But when you get the right customer, if they default, it's because they're not happy. You gave them the wrong solution or you haven't given them a good service. So one of the key things is making sure we're giving quality products and quality service to Nigerians. We deserve it more than anyone else in the world, right? So that's the first thing. And when that is in place, lots of low-cost capital is waiting. Trillions of dollars will come into this market to help that energy transition happen. But we have to make sure the service providers are good. And if you use something like SunFi, we'll make sure you don't go into that one-chance situation. And then we can activate a payment plan from you for 3 months to 24 or 36 months, making it accessible. So that's what we're doing. And we're working with local banks, international funds as well, to make it more equitable for everyone in the market.
Thank you, Rotimi. Mojola, I'm going to give you a chance to talk about what Gridcrux does and how you're solving the problem as well. Because, Rotimi, we have all said that financing is a huge problem. Has anyone in the audience attempted to get solar panels and then you just turned back when they told you the cost? Can you raise your hands if you've attempted? If you work from home, you're a remote worker, and you're like, I don't like generator noise. Then when they told you the price, you're like, I can sleep to generator noise. Anyone like that? So can you just tell us what you're doing and how you're solving the problem?
So we're solving what we like to say are two major problems. First, the problem of access, and also the problem of management, yeah? And I want to spend some time to really talk about the energy management bit. There is a tendency, yeah, to, I won't say over-focus because we have a serious power problem, but to place significant emphasis on the energy access issues without necessarily talking about the management bit. And I always say doing that is like someone that's trying to build wealth and that's focusing only on how much you're able to earn without necessarily placing any focus on how much you spend. And I think that a lot of significant savings can come from placing a lot of focus on energy management. When I say savings, we say that we have 4,000 megawatts being distributed on the grid. I think that at least almost 30% can be realized extra if we are more intentional about how we manage the energy. And that's one of the things we do at Gridcrux with our energy management application called GC Watt, to basically give people insights. Because if I ask most people here today, how much did you spend on power last month? It's rare to see someone who will give you the exact amount, but people would always give you a range. If I ask, or if I go further to say how many kilowatt hours, it's rare. But if I ask you how much did you spend last month, on your account, even if you don't know, you can simply log on to your mobile banking app, do a download, and you can check the details. And that's what we're trying to do on that front. We're also doing a lot of work with the discos to infuse storage at a grid level so that there is a lot more reliability to priority customers.
Thank you very much. So just before we round up, I just want to say that if there's anyone here who is having ideas as to how can I make this information accessible to the average Nigerian, I'm just going to tell you, you guys should start creating your videos, start creating your content, contact Mojola, contact them, let them employ you. If you have a huge TikTok following, let people know that we need clean energy. But any final words from you before we close the panel?
Yeah, no, it's like I should hire you or something. No, but honestly, the way that, because I used to be part of a company called Aspire. We used to actually do the solar installations ourselves. That was the first thing I did in Nigeria. And that was where we discovered that customers don't pay when they are unhappy with what you have given them. And that's the reason they default, right? We then realized that the financial ecosystem needed to lead the way for solar to become democratized in Nigeria. We saw a gap, and that's what we're building today. Now, we don't want to be the solar provider to save all solar providers or customers. We want to empower localized people that can build their following, and we will support and enable them. So if you are a micro-influencer or you have a community and you're saying, hey, let me go and aggregate these people, and I don't have the capital to buy inventory for them, SunFi can help with that. We can come in and we can cluster your people. If they're remote workers or employees of your company, or there are people that live in your community, one of you in this audience can go and aggregate 10 guys, and you can essentially become a solar provider just by registering on our platform, and we'll support you with all of the inventory, financing, installation support. We have all of that set up so that you can have solar in a box. So we're here to help companies even like Gridcrux down to the informal worker that wants to just do their own small solar installation business by themselves. You can get the support from us to go and empower you to reach your local community. And so that's the last word I'll leave you with, is that this is not a game of doing it by yourself. Collaboration is key to reaching millions of people in the country and transitioning them away from those nasty, nasty petrol and diesel generators.
Thank you very much, Rotimi. Final words from Mojola.
I would say as well that stakeholder collaboration, and also when it comes to generation sources, probably looking at aggregated sources, yeah? So we have, I would say, expertise in deploying gas power type solutions, combining that with storage at a mega level. And in Nigeria, where we have, I'll probably say, plethora of options, whether it's hydro, gas, solar, especially to the critical infrastructures and to the guys who are consuming in the megawatts, aggregated power solutions is key. There's a lot of focus now on power solutions that come from gas, and there is forecast, that, are predicting that we may not be able to meet those capacities, or even if we do, there may be downtime. So optimum solutions, combine gas, have a bit of utility type storage, and of course, make sure you manage your energy properly with GC Watts where you can.
Thank you very much. So Rotimi and Mojola are still around. If you want to chat with them, they're happy to answer your questions. Thank you all for listening, and have a wonderful
Thank you.